The Boss Mayor of EMO says, you know what? Take your $5,000 fine and shove it up your you-know-what. I'm not going to pay it, and I'm not going to host a drag queen story time, and we're not going to do any of that. And he's tossing to the council to see if they're going to appeal the $10,000 fine of the municipality or the town that has been levied by the Ontario Human Rights, or if they're going to appeal it. And he said it's extortion. I'm going to show you all that. That's wonderful. Boaver, I've got an update for Boaver and who's allowing it in the feed for animals, mainly dairy cows is the concern, and food beef, like beef that you would turn into steaks and food and all the rest. Nobody wants to eat contaminated beef like that, right? And I've already talked about that. So Trump has threatened Justin Trudeau. There's more information, and we're going to start here because it's super interesting and very, very funny. Apparently, Trump joked with Trudeau, and you've heard this already, of course, but he said, listen, if Canada can't get by without bilking $100 million or $100 billion, I can't remember which one it is, from the U.S. every year, then maybe they should become the 51st state and you could become the governor. Ha, 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 ha. While he's playing YMCA on his iPad. Hold on. You're going to love this song, Justin. Right? I mean, come on. Here is the joking, laughing hysteria about this on Fox News and the insiders who were at the table, according to Fox News. And I mean, the media lies, so take it with a grain of salt. But it's funny and it's embarrassing to Justin Trudeau and by extension Canada, but mainly Justin Trudeau. Here we go.
And tonight we're getting some new details about that Trump-Trudeau dinner from two people who were at the table. We are told that when Trudeau told President-elect Trump that new tariffs would kill the Canadian economy, Trump joked to him that if Canada can't survive without ripping off the U.S. to the tune of $100 billion a year, then maybe Canada should become the 51st state and Trudeau could become its governor. Right.
Danielle Smith was like, yo, I had dibs on the 51st state and I was pretty sure I was a shoo-in for governor. So I don't know. She might not be working for us. Who knows? So it's pretty funny. This guy laughs, right?
Of more on that detail with the panel, Peter.
We'll talk about it with the panel, right? Hilarious. There are a lot of people in Alberta, in broader Canada, who would welcome Trump taking over. At least we'd have free speech and be free of Justin Trudeau. I'm sure it would come with its own issues. Here's gov.exe, and he's highlighting Mel Joly. So in response to Trump joking about Justin Trudeau becoming the 50th. I mean, be careful because Trump will revoke that offer of the 51st state governorship to Trudeau if Mel Joly's not careful, right? And Mel Joly says the Liberal government is preparing to send the Americans a very clear message with retaliatory tariffs. Right? Like, looks like the meeting Trudeau had with Donald Trump went great. Everybody's having a good dinner. Everybody's having a great dinner. Smile bigger, Dominic LeBlanc, bigger. Smile as big as you can for the camera. You have to relay joy at this dinner. Canada Proud says a new audit of the Department of National Defense has concluded that Canada does not have the military infrastructure, training, or personnel capacity to defend our Arctic against potential incursions from Russia. Oh, oof, right? So we're going to pretend to play strongman against the incoming president of the United States and send him retaliatory tariffs while we also rely on the United States for our Arctic defense and security. Sounds like a super great move. We'll see how it works out for them, Cotton. This is just, I Googled with Brave, like, does Canada rely on the U.S. for Arctic security? And it says Canada's Arctic security relying on the United States. And it says Canada is indeed relying on the United States for Arctic security. And this reliance is multifaceted. Here are some key points. Joint exercises and operations. So it talks about Exercise Arctic Eagle Patriot and Exercise Arctic Edge and Operation Nunavut. I bet you can guess which ones are the Canadian ones and which ones are the American ones. The ones you can understand are the American ones. NORAD in North American Aerospace Defense Command. That's number 2. Number 3, military infrastructure. The U.S. has a significant military presence in Alaska, including bases and infrastructure, which provide a foundation for joint operations with Canada. Canada is upgrading its own military. Sure we are. Infrastructure in the Arctic, including dual-use facilities to support joint operations and enhance its capabilities. Are the dual operations DEI? Like, is it like Canadian military in one building and then like diversity, equity, and inclusion in the other? And pretty soon the DEI is going to take over the Canadian military building too, and then infect the U.S. military maybe, although Donald Trump will put us up to that. It seems like a bad idea to threaten the United States with tariffs when we're so integrated for, things like military defense and other, right? Like a whole bunch of other stuff, trade, a whole bunch of our trade. It's very, very unbalanced. A whole bunch of our trade goes down there and something like less than 10% comes up here. So if they cut off Canada, we'd be hurt a lot more than they'd be hurt. A lot more. And so it's interesting. Part of the issue with this whole, hey, Justin, get your shit together or I'll annex Canada. And yeah, I guess I'll keep you on as the 51st governor or whatever. Part of the problem was immigration and open borders, a border that's being ignored by Canada. Also, we have open borders, so people are coming to Canada with the express intention of crossing the northern border into the United States and exploiting their social security system that's currently as bad or worse than Canada's in some places. And so here's Pierre Poilievre pointing out that Justin Trudeau a year ago got a notice that this was happening and did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And now we're being told by Dominic LeBlanc and some other people, it is top priority. It is top priority to protect this border and to patrol this border and do all of these things to make sure we're secure because Donald Trump's threatening 25% tariffs. They were told. They didn't do a damn thing. They didn't do anything at all. And now we're supposed to believe that, oh yeah, no, we've been taking this seriously forever. Nope, they have not. Here's Pierre Poilievre.
Quoting now from a document obtained by Access to Information by Blacklock's reporter. This is a briefing note the Prime Minister received almost a year ago. CSIS identifies more than 350 organized crime groups actively involved in the domestic illegal fentanyl market. And what has Trudeau done since he got this information back in January, almost a year ago? Absolutely nothing other than try to legalize and liberalize these same drugs. He has weakened our borders and he doesn't even inspect 99% of shipping containers that come into our country. Since Trudeau became Prime Minister, there's been a 632% increase in U.S. border control encounters with people illegally attempting to enter the United States from Canada. In the first 10 months of 2024 alone, U.S. Border Patrol has intercepted more than 21,000 people illegally crossing our border. And on top of that, doesn't include the dangers that are coming into Canada from the United States because of Trudeau's broken border. According to Toronto police, 82% of gun crime is done with American guns that Trudeau allows over our borders because of the weak inspection system. And the drugs that come across the border, the existence of Roxham Road and other illegal border crossings that Justin Trudeau opened right after he put out a tweet to the entire world saying, welcome to Canada, come on in. We'll invite anybody across our borders. That chaos has persisted. It is clear that after 9 years, Trudeau is not worth the cost, the crime, the corruption, and the chaos. He has lost control of our border, lost control of immigration, lost control of our finances. And that is why today I am calling on the government to fix Trudeau's broken border. I'm demanding that the Trudeau government quickly present a Canada First plan to Parliament that includes increased patrols, working with provincial law enforcement, deploying new technology, cracking down on illegal drug production and trafficking, tightening visas, securing our ports, and expanding the mandate of CBSA officers to fix the broken border.
Oops. Yeah, so, I mean, he's talking about that. It was a 20-minute speech, all told, and I haven't watched all of it. I watched the first 7 or 8 minutes and I got called away. But it's interesting. They knew about this for a long time and they haven't done anything. And here's CTV News. More RCMP and Canada Border Service agents, human resources destined for the border, says the safety minister. But the budget tells a different story. They're actually cutting people from CBSA. CTV News is reporting Public Safety Minister Dominic LeBlanc says the federal government will absolutely be adding more Canadian Border Service agency and RCMP human resources at the border. His comments come following U.S. President Donald Trump's threat of a blanket 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico until the neighboring countries eliminate what Trump deems as the flow of illegal drugs and migrants over the border. In an interview with CTV News channel Power Play airing Monday, LeBlanc told Vasi Kapoulis his department has been working on increasing border security for months and insisted the measures are not to appease Trump. I don't believe you. When asked whether the added resources will include blunting the contractions in the CBSA budget, LeBlanc said yes. They're trying to make the claim. They released a budget, and the budget included contractions, which means attrition, getting rid of people, reducing the number of people within the CBSA, okay? And so now, because Trump said 25% tariff, they're trying to reimagine what's been happening, and they're saying, no, we're getting efficiencies, and we're funneling money into this place rather than getting rid of frontline people. And so they're saying they're removing people in the offices and things like that. And if those people are important, then they're complicating the border work. And if they're not important, well, that's interesting, right? Like how much efficiency are you getting? Like how much waste is there in the CBSA? Anyway, quote, I'm working with the Minister of Finance, Chrystia Freeland, reporter, right? LeBlanc said, adding that his government will have more to say in the coming weeks. The CBSA's funding contracted in the most recent budget cycle by 2.6%, according to documents on the federal government's website. LeBlanc insisted frontline officers have not been cut. They're not people in uniform securing the border, he told Kapolis. There could be administrative savings and different back office functions. When pressed, though, the minister said the CBSA's budget would not contract going forward. We have said very clearly that we were prepared to increase both the human resources and the equipment for the RCMP and the CBSA. That's exactly what we're going to do. So, yeah, I just don't believe them. I do not believe them whatsoever. Here's the National Post on December 2nd. It says, union calls on Liberals to allow the CBSA to patrol the entire border, but LeBlanc says that's not a priority because he's going to let the RCMP do it. CBSA union head says allowing the agency to assist the RCMP seems like an obvious part of the solution to the problem. I don't think so. It creates a situation where there are more people, boots on the ground, and I feel like there's a whole documentary talking about how the Homeland Security in the United States has been weaponized to basically help out the coyotes and traffic children to their destinations. And the last thing I want is people who could potentially be, I don't know, convinced through monetary compensation to help in the human trafficking that's going on across borders, right? So I'd like our border secured, please. Anyway, Canada's Public Safety Minister says that he has discussed the idea of allowing Canada Border Service Agency to patrol between points of entry, but it's not a priority for Ottawa as it looks for more urgent ways to bolster border security. Dominic LeBlanc, they've been working on this for a year. Bull poop. Dominic LeBlanc joined Prime Minister Trudeau on a trip last Friday to Palm Beach, Florida to see President-elect Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago estate, where they dined with other incoming White House cabinet nominees. The unannounced trip had been arranged earlier in the week when leaders spoke by phone after Trump threatened to slap a 25% tariff on imports from Mexico and Canada over concerns about illegal immigration and the flow of fentanyl into the United States when he takes office in January. Since Trump's threat, LeBlanc has sought to reassure Canadians and his American counterparts that as it takes border security seriously, pledging in the wake of the threat to send additional police drones and helicopters to the RCMP, as well as having personnel redeployed. Mark Weber, the national president of the Customs and Immigration Union representing border services officers, said Ottawa should give the agency the power to patrol the entire border, not just the official entry points. He called on the Liberals to repeal an order dating back to 1932, which made the Mounties responsible for border security between entry points, which Weber said is clearly outdated. The situation is so silly now that if our officers are sitting at one of their workplaces and they see someone crossing just off to where the port is, we have to call the RCMP. It's frustrating for members. With a nearly 9,000, that's a good point. If you're a border service guard and you're like, well, that's not my jurisdiction, I can't do anything. Yeah, we should probably fix that problem. It's frustrating for members, yeah. With a nearly 9,000 kilometer border, we have a situation in Alberta where the RCMP doesn't have enough personnel to meaningfully police the province, and we're saying that they're responsible for border security. That's not going to work. Anybody who knows anything about the police situation in Alberta and indeed across the West who rely on RCMP and not provincial forces or local forces, then it's a disaster because there isn't enough and they don't have the resources, they don't have the equipment, it's too remote. It's not a priority. It doesn't seem like it's a priority. It seems like it's 7th or 8th or 10th or 15th on the list. It's definitely not up there. I wouldn't say it's in the top 10 even, really, honestly. RCMP policing. If the RCMP policing is to protect Justin Trudeau, then it's like top 1 or 2, right? But if the RCMP policing is to protect our border, it doesn't register. It's like 30th, 35th. No, it's not. It's not even that high, right? Like, come on. So it depends. But I don't want to fund the RCMP for Justin Trudeau protection. Thanks, right? I think we should probably limit the size of motorcades. You can have one police car and a strengthened, like, hardened limo. But that's it. No more 15, 25 SUVs, all that stuff. I don't think so. I don't think it's justified. Why is it getting out of control like that? It's a canary in the coal mine, right? Everything else is out of control too. The amount of cars in Justin Trudeau's entourage is related to the waste spent by his government. We've got a bit of Trump news at the end of the show, but I wanted to highlight this as well because the Hunter Biden pardon, while it's not really related to the Canadian government, et cetera, I think it's still pretty important and kind of is an interesting story that is exposing more than it's hiding. Like, it looked like Hunter Biden was going to get off anyway. I mean, maybe not. Maybe he was going to be going to jail. But Joe Biden pardoning Hunter makes this at the top of the news cycle again in a way that is damaging to the Democrats. And Clandestine goes through it. I just think it's interesting, and this is some good color on it. Clandestine says, I'm extremely thankful Biden and his handlers issued this pardon. All it's done is bring more attention to all of their offshore criminality and confirm that Joe and the Dems are trying to cover their tracks. It's also discredited the Dems and the mainstream media and opened the door for Trump to pardon anyone he likes without backlash. It's proven that the Dems are corrupt and will lie and cheat whenever it suits them. It also proves the Dems sit on a false moral high ground. Besides, Hunter is not who we are ultimately after. He's just a bag man. He is the willing family member who is just a proxy for Joe, who is a proxy for Obama, who is a proxy for George Soros, who's a proxy for whoever is above him, and so on. Hunter is not the mastermind of this operation. He was just the front man behind many layers of separation for the deep state, and he was compensated with millions of dollars for hookers and blow. Hunter's just a puppet. This pardon is not going to make the situation go away. It did the opposite. It just made the situation bigger. It did. It's totally true. And then this guy goes through. Sorry, somebody's blowing up my phone or my communication messaging here, so I have to go and check that out. But this guy talks about how these anchors are trying to blame Trump for Joe Biden pardoning Hunter, which is weird. And this guy says, this is you guys. Like, you guys can't make this Trump's fault. This is all about these people who've done this. Here we go.
Of unrelenting attacks. I don't blame him.
You guys can spend all day long trying to spin this, that this is Donald Trump's fault, that this is somehow caused by Donald Trump. Oh, he's appointing the wrong people. Oh, he did it. Oh, this is the worst possible thing a president could possibly do to his party and to the country, to sit for a year and say, I will not do this. I will not do this. The rule of law is sacred. We have to respect the justice system. Juries, we have to respect juries. We have to respect the guardrails and the norms of our democracy. These people are liars. Inflation, it's transitory. Afghanistan, it's a success. The border is secure. Robert Hur is a liar. The videos are cheap fakes. Biden has a cold. He'll never drop out. Oh, I'll never pardon Hunter. It's all a lie. It is all a grift. Every American, except the most partisan, brain-rotted people, are going to be outraged by this today. He is going to leave off. You think 38, 39% job approval is bad? Just you wait. Just you wait. He's disgraced today. Outrageous. Are you fine with
right? I don't think he's wrong. I think he's going easy on him. Jeepers creepers. And it seems like he's doing things, like Joe Biden is doing things that would be detrimental to him. But I mean, hey, maybe not, right? Who knows? Maybe that's the best he could have hoped for, and he doesn't care what anybody thinks about him. Legacy. Who cares about his legacy, right? He's got his family intact. Maybe he made a deal. Who knows? Maybe Hunter made a deal, right? And maybe Joe got to walk away from this whole thing and not suffer the consequences of Burisma and all of the selling of access to the president and the vice president and all of that, because that criminality happened. It wasn't made up, right? They impeached Donald Trump for making a phone call to Zelensky to ask about the money going to Burisma and all of that impropriety. They impeached him for that. So, like, nothing, as far as I understand it, can stop what is coming, because the shit is going to hit the fan. And, like, people are the upper echelon are panicking at this point in time. They're saying, Donald Trump is, what are they saying? Unhinged is one. Irrational, right? And they're calling him irrational because they're saying, 25% tariffs will harm the U.S. economy. And again, I just don't think they're seeing it. But they're panicking and they're trying to do things, like derail his presidential run, shoot him in the head, right? All of these things. And now it's like they're stuck. They can't do anything. And January 20th is barreling down on us. It's not very far away. 48 days, 49 days, 48. So pretty wild stuff happening there. Here's an update on the GST thing. This is just funny. Here's a Liberal MP, Gaudy Hutchins, and she's the Minister for Rural Economic Development and the Minister for ACOA. And she says that she's excited about all this junk food. But CA Bird says, here you're promoting junk food, while at the same time your party is trying to get restrictions on advertising for children. Shame on you. So like the Fruit Loops, Toucan Sam, McDonald's with, what's his name, Ronald McDonald, all of these things, you're not allowed to advertise to children. Okay, fair enough. I can get behind that. That makes sense to me. But they took the GST off food, and the only foods that had taxes on it were foods that are kind of bad for you, right? And so the hypocrisy is kind of funny, and they don't see it. I mean, maybe they see it, but they can't see it because if they saw it, they wouldn't be able to put this ad together. So here's this liberal ad, and it's a failure. Here we go.
Hey friends, guess what everything on this table has in common? Well, they'll all be tax-free starting December the 14th. This chicken, these chips, these diapers, and yes, there's more, even your Christmas tree. Inflation is slowing down and interest rates are dropping, but Canadians aren't feeling that at home yet. So we're giving a tax break for 2 months. No GST or HST on groceries, kids, toys and clothes, board games, video games, and all kinds of other products. But wait, there's more for working Canadians. The Working Canadians rebate will give anyone who made less than $150,000 last year $250 in their bank account in the spring. So we know the holidays are a time when families get together, but the bills can add up. So we're making sure you can buy the things you need and save for the things you want.
The carbon tax makes everything more expensive and is inflationary. And they're ignoring that and Huggies. Why are we taxing diapers, right? Follow-up question, is there a better way to do that than diapers? I've heard that there are other cultures that do it much better with no diapers at all. And the kids, somebody said, listen, we train our children to poop into a diaper. And then we have to break that habit and then retrain them to poop into a toilet. Like the things that we do, we make things hard for ourselves way more often than we don't. Regardless, it's supposed to be progressive. It's supposed to be better, but I think that it's just making money for Huggies. I digress. Here is Sheila Gunn Reid. Let's talk about, this is kind of our grab bag of governance today, but this is financial. And I like financial news because it's interesting and very, you can connect with it pretty easily most of the time because it's your money they're stealing. And it makes me angry. And I feel like it makes you angry, but it's also egregious that so many things have been stolen out in the open and nobody seems to care or be aware of it. And it's really, really wild. And then when people find out, almost nothing happens, right? People just have ad hominem attacks, personal attacks, right? Like if you say, why did you spend $1 million on a podcast that 200 people subscribe to? The answer is, you're probably alt-right, right? And that's weird, right? That's weird. Yes, the Canadian government spent $1 million on a podcast that 200 people subscribe to, and these people are upset about it, which is correctly upset. Yes. Holy cow, right? Like that was in 2018 for me. Here we go.
Thank you very much. I think I still had a bit over a minute.
1 minute, 30 seconds, yeah, sorry.
Okay. It was recently revealed that the government spent over $970,000 to produce a podcast that ended up only having 229 subscribers. That's a lot of dollars per subscriber. I'm wondering if, and this was specifically Stats Canada that had paid this close to $1 million. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or feedback about, nearly $1 million spent to produce a podcast that many people do from their phones, walking down the street, whatever the case is, for virtually no cost. Yet the government spent $1 million, yet only garnered a subscriber base of 229. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or feelings about that.
So off the top, quickly, I actually thought I misheard that when I first heard about it. I thought it was government funding other people's podcasts, whatever it was. But no, this was a government department's podcast. It is astonishing that they're spending a nickel on that. And I'm going to turn this over to my colleague. He's the investigative journalist for the CTF, Ryan Thorpe. Ryan, you were doing some digging on that. It was astonishing to see.
Yeah, so...
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Oh.
And you only have 15 seconds, thanks.
I'll just add quickly that we dug up these records. The costs are ridiculous. They're producing podcasts that no Canadian would ask or be willing to pay for. It's reflected in that subscriber count, and it is clearly a massive waste of our money.
Massive waste of our money. Huge, massive waste of our money. And not a small amount, like $1 million. So, I mean, holy smoke. I could buy 2 humidity water machines for that amount of money. But no. And give it to a couple of First Nations places and they'd have fresh water and no ridiculous podcast. Maybe with the fresh water, they could have a freshwater podcast, right? Holly Doan says, Brazilian contractor hired to manage pandemic relief program, billed up to $750 an hour. I wonder if I could get hired by the Brazilian government to be a pandemic relief contractor. That would be great. I would charge $750 an hour. Why are they hiring Brazilians? What is happening? Finance Canada blamed for poor oversight of a program that wasted billions. That's that B word again. The program was not managed with due regard for value for money. No, it sure wasn't. And I don't think there's anything that's actually managed with value for money as the priority. Here's an example. Andrew Scheer says, turns out during COVID, Trudeau wasted billions and spent big bucks on high-priced outside consultants, $3.5 billion to ineligible companies. He drew the size of the bureaucracy up by 40% and still hired consultants to do the work of bureaucrats. Trudeau is not worth the cost. That's a slogan. Seems to be a lot of waste, and Canadian taxpayers are on the hook for it, right? Here's Financial Post. It says the layoffs could be on the table for public servants. I'm shocked. I can't. Oh my gosh. Mismanagement of this level has resulted in consequences. I cannot believe it. Here's everything you need to know, they say. And it says, what is the spending review? In Budget 2024, the federal government announced the second phase of the spending review process that would seek to achieve savings primarily through natural attrition in the federal public service. This is what I was talking about earlier with the CBSA having a reduction in their budget of I think it's 2.6% or something like that. And the 2.6% is if somebody retires, then they don't replace that job, right? And so all of that could lead to a situation where we're having problems at the border again because they're trying to cost save in a way that doesn't take away frontline people who are on the border, but does take away support people and back office people. And I'm all for getting rid of waste, but it seems like they don't get rid of waste. They enrich themselves and then cut frontline people and then say, you can do with 6 what you used to be able to do with 12. And I don't know why you're complaining about it. Other people would love to have your job. You know what I'm saying? So, and I used to work in children's mental health, and that was all ministry governed, mostly ministry funded. We did some fundraising here and there, but a lot of the budget of the operation of the facility was from government. And so we dealt with that all the time. And it was kind of arbitrary, and it didn't, when they would say we're not cutting front line, it would still impact front line. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So they can say these things, but it's problematic. And the spending that we need to cut is the NGOs, the extra ministries, the 100,000 plus salaries that are going to people who don't do anything. All of that is the big waste, right? Hello, everyone. Thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful